real quickly before I jump into the video, if you guys are interested at all within getting a restock, trying it out for the first time, whatever it may be, the code Espresso gets you 30% off your entire order for a limited time over at gfuel.com, as opposed to the normal 10% that it normally does. So if you guys want to check it out, now's a better time than ever. That said, back to the regularly scheduled content. Gone are the days in Call of Duty where a DLC weapon was something you could buy for a very small amounts, or it was given to you just for playing the game. As of recent years, we've seen introductions of weapons via supply drops, via collections, and other different ways that, as of Infinite Warfare, did give Season Pass holders it for immediate access and then had challenges associated with it. But among all those different ways, the DLC weapons have been introduced within each game year over year. The one thing that doesn't seem to change is the fact that we will be getting DLC weapons as time progresses through whatever title it may end up being. But the means of those certainly have, and certainly will still change as time progresses, and as of Black Ops 4, it was again another introduction in a different way in how weapons have been handled. Because as it stands in Black Ops 4, it's the first time we've seen an introduction of DLC weapons and post-launch content as such with a contraband stream. No longer are weapons introduced via supply drops, no longer are they based on collections with variants. Instead, the contraband stream is a compromise that offers a guarantee of a weapon without the idea that random chance would perhaps derail the hopes that you had of getting that item that you want. But that guarantee is traded off with a hell of a long grind in game. Utilizing tier skips and playing for every day of the event, you could have gotten roughly 70 tiers off of 1 kill in Blackout, 1 win in MP, or around 15 in Zombies each day. So at the minimum, for Operation Absolute Zero and our newest introduction of weapons with more coming in the very near future, at the minimum, without spending any money at all, it'd roughly take you about 30 hours of playtime to get all three. That's also as well assuming there are no tier bonuses like what we saw in Operation First Strike, but with none having been in Operation Absolute Zero as of yet, that point still stands. Now, at first glance, to me and other content creators who do this either as a job, as a partial job, or even just put in the time for the craft, that may be something that seems rather obtainable. But for many people working jobs, going to school, having families, and other life responsibilities that keep you from playing COD, that may still be a long time to grind over the course of what is a 70-day span in Absolute Zero. So I do very much hope that no one is left out and all with the content in-game, but let's talk today about the theory of what happens if we don't finish the contraband stream. What happens to those DLC weapons? Where do they go after Operation Absolute Zero? Are they lost forever? Are they going to be something that we still have the ability to get them back? Whatever the situation may be, let's talk about the theory here of this. Now, admittedly, right up front, your guess right now is as good as mine. We have absolutely no definitive answer as of yet. We will know for sure, though, in just a little over a week's time when the third operation kicks off and when Operation Absolute Zero ends, but right now we don't know completely. But I do want to discuss a few scenarios that I think are likely that could happen. So first up on deck, starting from probably what I think is the most likely to least likely here in this list, the first scenario that I think is very likely to happen is that they just get placed in reserves. We saw that the more valuable items from the contraband stream in Operation First Strike rolled over into the reserves of Operation Absolute Zero, and for many players, you may have gotten the Boombox SG-12 that was from the very first event within Operation Absolute Zero. Whenever the event started for Absolute Zero, I was kind of curious to see what would happen with that, but they just rolled over into each other, and it seems like both First Strike items and Operation Absolute Zero items will roll over into whatever Operation 3 is in just a little bit of time. But who's to say that we don't see them introduced in reserves as full weapons? It would make sense as we start to see that sort of reserve system merge with a hybrid between Black Ops 3's supply drop system and Black Ops 4's content system. Black Ops 3 offered absolutely no collections or anything of the sort, so all the content was just thrown into one giant loot pool that expanded with every content update, which unfortunately meant that with every update, your chances of getting that weapon you may have wanted got slimmer and slimmer, and so it seems like we might be seeing the same thing, because with previous operation items being in there, that again makes the reserve loot pool even larger as well. So whereas we could see this start to be added into reserves is something that then would allow players to have the opportunity to get them based off of random chance, but then it also clears another hurdle, because one, you'd have to end up getting to the reserves, which if it follows the same pattern of Operation Absolute Zero, you'd have to go those 100 tiers and then some, plus having the random chance of getting that afterwards. So it prevents a little bit of a problem in that regard, that if players didn't have the time to get to tier 100 this time, who's to say they're going to next time and then go even further? And also that comes down to the problem of it being simply random chance, and as the time progresses throughout the year, again, that problem of an ever expanding loot pool with ever lessening odds of getting what you actually want persists. So that's something that I unfortunately think this is still going to be how it happens, even though when you think about about it more logistically, it doesn't really make as much sense. I do think that it will be there because at that point you then have it in the game at all times, but your chances of getting them are just lessened greatly. So from an administrative perspective, it's almost like, well, it's there and it was there for a time where you were guaranteed it, but it's not necessarily gone, but it's there, but not with the greatest odds. So I unfortunately think that's probably the most likely candidate for what will happen here at this, but it also doesn't mean that it's the only candidate for what may happen to these weapons. I also would not be surprised if we end up seeing them added in on rotation as special orders, very similar to what we saw in the holiday season of the triple play. That was something that for $10 you ended up getting the SOG 9mm skin, you ended up getting the Sleigh Bell melee weapon, and 10 tiers. So truthfully, I could believe that this makes its way in every so often, maybe like once every month or so, that it would make its way over into the special orders where you could buy a bundle of that, but that also presents another hurdle, as with the last explanation that we may see, because you inevitably would end up having the same scenario as the Fall Firearms bundle, and for those that remember that, it was a big uproar because there were multiple weapon skins that were pre-order bonuses that players, and a lot of them, had to choose, do I want to buy this for $10 even though I already own one of these weapon skins? The Fall Firearms deal came with, I believe it was the GameStop pre-order bonus and another pre-order bonus for the Maddox, so you had a skin for the Strife as well as the Maddox, but if you ended up pre-ordering from either of those locations, you ended up already having one. So you were paying $10 for essentially $5 of value, if you could even consider that. So assuming that somebody may have already gotten, say, to tier 25 or 50 within the Contraband stream of Season 2, if they do this in Season 3, then you're only looking to buy that SWAT RFT, but it would probably be a comparable price tag where you're paying $10 for what would only be 1/3 of that bundle that's new content to you. So that, unfortunately, would be another hurdle or obstacle that would have to face. But again, seeing that we have seen 2 bundles already with weapon variants, who's to say that doesn't happen with actual weapons as a guaranteed way to end up getting them? Another option that I see as viable, but how likely it will actually be, that's an entirely different story. That being that they're for individual sale. We have seen individual weapons for sale in the past. Black Ops 4 hasn't really done that outside of, again, those couple of bundles for variants. But that said, we've seen things back all the way since Black Ops 2 and the Peacekeeper were introduced that we had games where weapons were available for individual purchase. Not as of recent years, but who's to say that doesn't come back as something that, again, guarantees players the ability to get the weapons they may have missed throughout the event. And this would be something that, if implemented, would allow you to circumnavigate that potential risk of either having to go 100 tiers and then gamble with the reserves and getting it like that, or circumnavigating the ability to have to pay $10 or full price for 1/3 of what you end up needing. But if this does end up happening where they go available on individual sale, I can't imagine they'd be the same price as what we ended up seeing within Black Ops 2 and Ghosts for, say, $5 each. If that happens, I'd expect them to be marked up quite a bit. I'm thinking probably like 10 to 15. As much as I hate to think that, I don't think that's out of the realms of possibilities. And I think that given the price tags of even just a reticle in the Blackjack shop, a full weapon's definitely gonna be way more pricey than that. There's 2 more scenarios that I think could happen, but again, are so unlikely that it's pretty much just pitching an idea out there. Firstly, I'd love to see something like a pop-up limited event for the Contraband stream. Similar to the Barbarians event, we ended up having 20 items there with that, culminating in the Cap 45 as that ultimate reward, with a brand new camo thrown in the mix there as well. Honestly, I think it'd be really cool to end up seeing that happen on, say, a 2 or 3 week interval where you have multiple of these over the course of an event where it allows you to end up getting more, plus maybe some new items thrown in there. Maybe that's a way that you introduce a brand new reactive camo every 2 weeks or something like that. So to me, it's a nice little compromise of keeping things that players may have missed readily available, but also giving a few more content drops of things that can be of a little more value. You can either, say, take some of the stickers and all that kind of stuff from reserves and put them in there so that you can end up having those not water down the loot pool for players that may be going on that current season's reserves, or it could be something that allows it to just simply allow for more worthwhile things like camos to be showcased and earnable on a more frequent basis. And the final thing that I want to talk about is one that truthfully I don't think is likely to happen, but I think is something that Black Ops 4 could really benefit from, that being the introduction of a contract system, very similar to how Black Ops 3's worked for bundles and bribes when those came along, but the ability to end up activating a contract, grinding out, say, 50 to 100 wins or something like that, but then, say, have a DLC weapon bribe where it guarantees you one of the ones you don't already have. So while it's something that we have 3 DLC weapons, that being being the Secret Santa, the Damon 3XB, and also the SWAT RFT. And I guess you could throw in the Cap 45 because that ends at the same time, though it wasn't necessarily branded as Operation Absolute Zero weapons. You'd have the ability to grind out the game organically, keeping players engaged with it, but also rewarding players in a manner that is, again, not RNG based, but something that still takes quite a bit of time. And if that were to ever be introduced, I think you could do that with a ton of different options as well in terms of different customization items, whether that be unique mastercrafts or reactive camos, some exclusive skins or anything like that, or whatever it may be. I think that would be a great way to do it. But that said, rounding this off, I do think there are options for how DLC weapons will end up being reintroduced, even outside of the run of the operation they were introduced with. While we've laid out 5 very real possibilities here, the possibility that they just go away is something that is possible as well. But I don't see that happening. I don't think that's a likely candidate for what may end up happening as of next week when Operation 3 rolls around. But that said, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think here of this? How do you think the DLC weapons are gonna be handled outside of Operation Absolute Zero as we roll on and continue to see how we progress throughout the year of Black Ops 4? Do you think it'll be something that they're in reserves? Do you think it'll be something they're in special orders on rotation? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But that said, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, multiplayer, Blackout, zombies. We got you covered the best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. So if any of it interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected from outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. So if you guys want to strike my conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. But that said, out of the way, thank you guys all so much for watching. My name has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.